Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to the latest edition of our Cult Classic TV documentary series, where we look at cult classic TV programs that have left their mark on the industry. We look at TV programs from all genres, from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. And this week we're focusing on light-hearted humor. We're going back all the way to 1984 to the classic comedy TV series Who's the Boss? It ran for eight seasons between 1984 to 1992. One of the stars of the show, obviously, was the great Tony Danza, who played Tony McKelly. But one of the prominent recurring actors of the show of Who's the Boss, he appeared for a recurring season, was the character Al, and he's played by our guest this evening, Billy Gallo. Billy, when I mentioned Who's the Boss in the frame of cult classic, what does cult classic mean to you, and why do you still think Who's the Boss, shown all around the world, still resonates with a TV audience there today, roughly 35 years on from its original start date?
Wow, I feel old. 30-something years ago, I started doing the math. 92 was our last year, so that's 30 years ago. The show was an amazing show to be on. I mean, I grew up watching Tony Danza on Who's the Boss. I grew up. I watched him on Taxi for many years, and I watched Katherine Hellman on a TV series called Soap. And I was a little kid, in Brooklyn, New York, dreaming of being an actor. And then, I come out to Hollywood at 18 with $200 in my pocket, a one-way ticket, didn't know a soul out here, but I had a dream in my heart to be an actor. And I wind up working with, Tony Danza on, Who's the Boss, and Katherine Hellman on Who's the Boss. So for me, it was a dream come true, to be, these are actors that I literally watched. And I remember seeing Tony Danza on Taxi, and I was like, wow, this guy's got like a Brooklyn accent like me. I said, look, if this guy can be on TV, I can be on TV. And, that really tried to motivated me to, pursue my dream of being an actor. And working with, the actors on that show was, it's amazing because there was so much talent on that show, and they were really comic geniuses. Their timing, Katherine Hellman, she can come in with one line and still, get the biggest laugh in the show. Judith Light, Tony, the whole cast was amazing. I think, it's just, they don't make shows like that anymore. I think that's why, it still resonates today, and it still, plays, and it's still funny.
And Billy, how did the opportunity come about for you to get cast in Who's the Boss? Was it a regular sort of thing where you went for an audition and you were recommended by a talent agent, or did you have a talent agent at the time, or was it a unique set of circumstances which made you find your way onto the TV screens of Who's the Boss?
So, I came out to Hollywood, and, I was blessed. I started working immediately. I booked my own TV series and with Matthew Perry called Boys Will Be Boys. And, I was working a lot. So I had an agent at the time, and they were looking for this role of, Al, a kid from Brooklyn. And I fit the type, and I went in and I read and I got the part. And now Al was just a guest star on the show. He was only supposed to be one episode, but they liked what I did on the show, and they kept writing me back in, and Tony and I became good friends. And, I was part of that show for that whole 3-year run. A lot of people don't know this, but, when I was not on the show, I was Tony Danza's stand-in. So when he had to run around and do stuff, I would play him on the show. And that was a great experience because, I was there for every episode, and I would do all his blocking and, take notes. And when he'd show up onto set, when I'd hand him the notes and show him his blocking, and, he'd take over. So I got to act with, that amazing cast, Judith Light and Katherine Hellman on a daily basis, and Alyssa and Danny. So it was so much fun. And then, when they wrote me an episode, I'd play, Al, but it was amazing.
And Billy, you mentioned Alyssa and Danny, and obviously they were child stars back in the 80s in terms of Who's the Boss. And we've had so many child stars in the 80s go on to great things, like David Faustino and Christina Applegate spring to mind as the Bundy children and Married with Children. And in terms of spotting to cast into the limelight, in terms of who's the boss, Alice and Danny, and what was it like working with sort of child stars back then? Were you able to resonate them? Were they very grounded or very proficient in their acting?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, they, like I said, it was like a big family, coming onto that show. The cast was so tight. Tony was, kind of like a father figure to both of the kids on the show. When I came on, they were pros. They knew their lines, they hit their marks. They were funny. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better cast to be part of. They were true professionals, and it's amazing to see how they've, what Alyssa's doing in her life, and Danny, they've done some amazing things. Speaking about, Christina Applegate and David Faustino, I was on that show too. I played Christina Applegate's boyfriend on that. I played Stitch. So, I got to play all the boyfriends, Alyssa's, Christina's, so I've had a lot of fun in my career. Let's just say that.
And Billy, just breaking away from Married with Children, back to who's about another classic TV episode, one of the greatest comedy episodes of comedy sitcoms of all time, Married with Children. But in terms of Who's the Boss, what was the working week like on set in terms of Who's the Boss? And you mentioned you were, in many cases, Tony's stand-in, so you'd have a fair, good reflection on this. How long did it take to shoot an episode from the Monday that you come in terms of table reads, in terms of block shooting on location? Whereas looking at 7 to 8 day turnaround per episode?
No, it was a cakewalk. It was the easiest show I've ever done in my life. We would do a table reading on a Monday. We'd sit around and read the script, and we'd do some notes, and I mean, pretty much that was kind of it. Like, we'd go play golf. Me and Tony would go play golf at a, that was, we did a table reading, we got some notes, and then, we were out playing golf. We come in the next day on a Tuesday, and we'd get some notes, and we do it, we put it on his feet a little bit. We walk around, it takes, we do it, just kind of blocking it out. Tuesdays were easy. Wednesdays, we'd go on, I think it was Wednesdays or Thursdays, we'd go on to stage in front of cameras. And I wasn't on location. It was on a sound stage, and it was, in front of a live audience. So, on Wednesdays or Thursdays, we'd go down and we'd block it in front of cameras and rehearse. And then we'd do a run through for the producers. And then on Fridays, we do 2 shows. We do like a 3:30 show and a 7 o'clock show. And we tape it in front of a live audience. And it was like doing a play. Rarely did we have to go. They were so well rehearsed that when we did the show, we did it like a play. It kind of ran right through. It was rare that, we had to go back and reshoot stuff. Sometimes if somebody flubbed the line or something like that, we'd go back and pick up the line. But usually it was so well rehearsed. We'd shoot 2 episodes, and then they would take the best of both episodes and they'd cut them into one episode. And that's the one that aired on TV. But it was the easiest job I've ever done. It was so much fun. I mean, we had a blast doing the show. It was all you did was laugh on that show.
Yeah, I suppose the one-liners and Who's the Boss are very much iconic, but to make the show the integral success, you really had to have a strong female lead to play off Tony Danza, and Judith Light was that to perfection in terms of playing that strong, vibrant businesswoman, but also a humorous comedy sort of tone to her acting ability as well. And Judith was an integral part of that success. As much as Tony was an integral part of that success, Judith really was it was 50-50 in terms of Judith's importance as well to it.
Yeah, well, listen, Judith Light is an amazing actress. I mean, I just recently, not too long ago, I saw her with Al Pacino on stage, and, she just blew me away. I mean, she's super, super talented. Doing a sitcom, it's light and it's comedic, but she can go the other way and do the drama stuff just as well as she can do the comedy. And Tony's he did what, I don't know, 8 years on Taxi. I mean, the guy's his timing, his comedy was just impeccable. I mean, for me, it was like a masterclass in doing comedy. I never thought, when I came out to Hollywood, I was a serious theater actor from Lee Strasberg Actor Studio. I never saw myself doing comedy. that was the last thing I thought I saw, I would do. But, I kind of fell into comedy, and I learned from some of the greats, like Tony and Judith and Catherine.
Yeah, and I suppose, Billy, in terms of Who's the Boss, it's standalone in terms of its time, that it sort of resonates today in terms of comedic TV series. And what makes a cult classic TV series is anyone that can sit down maybe 30 years later, a 16 or 17-year-old, never heard of maybe Judith Light before in their life, turn on Who's the Boss and currently say, right, I'm hooked in this episode, I want to see more, why is this not on Netflix and sort of stuff like that. So it generates a whole new audience for even to this day that were probably born maybe 10 or 12 years after Who's the Boss had its final season and airing. Is that for you stands the test of time? Is that what makes a cult classic sort of TV series, that it can be watched at any time throughout the decades?
Absolutely. I just say, is there airing in Ireland?
Yes, it is airing in Ireland. Yes, it's airing on the Yesterday TV channel. It airs at 6:30 in Ireland every Friday night. So in terms of, but it doesn't run sort of back-to-back episode. It could be an episode from season 3 one week and an episode from season 5 the next week, obviously, in terms of comedic shows. That's
awesome. Yeah. I think, the fact that people are still watching it and still laughing and still enjoying it. I mean, that's truly what, makes, a cult classic.
And I suppose, Billy, you mentioned this comedy genre and been in so many sort of different genres and different sort of TV sort of shows throughout your year. There's almost feel that sort of light-hearted humor shooting in front of a live TV audience, in terms of that sort of going to work, enjoying the atmosphere. And I imagine being on the set of Who's the Boss, it was always probably light-hearted entertainment, goodwill, sort of vibrant humor between sort of takes and shooting on days. Was it very much a case where you went to work every day sort of saying, I'm going to enjoy today, I don't want to miss today, even if I had a flu or a cold or something, that I want to be here because I'm going to make good, pleasant memories today?
Yeah, like I said, it's the most fun. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've worked on a lot of shows and a lot of different casts. And when you work on a film or a TV show, they become a family. We're working together. It's a unit, and in all my years and all the different sets I've been on, that's the one that truly, it was so like a family. We had so much fun. We laughed. We hung out together afterwards. We ate together. It was truly like a family.
And Billy, when you saw the script for the first time and you met the directors and the producers in terms of the character Al, you mentioned you came in thinking that might be only sort of one episode. What sort of characteristics jumped off the sheet, jumped off the paper when you saw the character and Al, in terms of how you're going to portray this sort of guy? Were you trying to find that sort of young, sort of arrogant, hippie, sort of gangster, sort of street mentality, that it's me against the world type of vibe?
Yeah, Al, I could relate to Al because, when they described Al, he was Mrs. Rosini's uncle. He was a kid who got in trouble stealing car radios, and the judge said he had to either go to juvenile hall or go to school. So he decides to go to beauty school because, you get to meet a lot of chicks and you get to play with their heads. And, he was just he wasn't the sharpest tool in his shed, Al. So I kind of played him a little dumb. I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up, I was a bit of a juvenile delinquent myself when in my 16, 7, running around doing dumb stuff. And, I could relate to Al. I mean, I knew who Al was. So I just brought, me. I just brought, some of my misspent childhood to Al. The leather jacket and the New York accent. I played it up. I played it very thick New York accent because, the kid was from Brooklyn. And, I think that's what the producers liked, is the fact that I was real. I wasn't like trying to act like a guy from Brooklyn. I was a guy from Brooklyn, and I just played it up.
And I suppose, Billy, Gallo, we were now in 2022. We're over the global pandemic, which was COVID, a busy time, I imagine, for all actors in California in terms of scripts going on, in terms of auditions, maybe projects, documentaries, TV roles, cameo roles, recurring roles. Is there anything in the pipeline for you, Billy, in terms of 2022 that is coming up on our TV screens that we might see in Ireland or in the UK in the upcoming few months?
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff. I'm producing a film that I wrote, and I just, it took the past 2 years to really focus on writing the screenplay, and I got my producer's hat on, and the goal is to produce this film and have it in theaters all over the world. I also have a 1-hour drama, a police drama that I'm producing. So, I create my own projects, now, this background here, this is not a virtual background. This is my real, I have a school in the South Bay, Manhattan Beach, where I teach the craft of acting. And I found my true passion really is to be the guide. When I came out to Hollywood at 18 with $200 in my pocket, I didn't know a soul, but I made the dream a reality. So now I help other people make the dream a reality. And, during the pandemic, I created a podcast, which is called the Hollywood Dreammaker Podcast, and it's taken me global. And I have students, it doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Ireland and you can study with me via Zoom like this, so now, I have a brick and mortar school, but now I can do what I teach, it doesn't matter anywhere, globally. And it's been amazing. The podcast has taken me global. I have a YouTube channel called the Inside the Manhattan Actor Studio, where all of my video from my podcast lives, so there's tons of free stuff. My whole thing is about being of service and how can I make a difference in somebody else's life. So if you have a dream and you want to be an actor and you have no idea how to get started, well, I do. I've been there, done that. I got the t-shirt to prove it. I've been blessed. And now for me, it's all about giving back and how can I help somebody else make their dream a reality. So that's what that's my main focus right now, is truly being the guide and helping other people, make their dream a reality. So, Hollywood Dreammaker Podcast is free, and it's got I've had amazing guests on it telling their, journey into Hollywood. And there's so much gold on it that, anybody who has a dream of being an actor, they definitely want to listen to it. It's free, and there's just tons of, I've had Academy Award winners on it, Golden Globe winners, Emmy Award winning actors, talent agents, managers, I've had them, 50 something guests, and they're dropping some serious gold.
Wow. On that note, you're a busy man, Billy Gallo. Billy, just finally, in terms of Who's the Boss, let's pretend there was an Who's the Boss encyclopedia, a dictionary of such, and they went through all the characters that played a role in Who's the Boss over the 8 seasons. And they started off, and the first up in the encyclopedia, obviously they went down through the A's, and no sooner had they gone down through the A's, but they came across the character Al, and they left a blank, say maybe 2 sentences underneath his name, a sort of a synopsis as such. And maybe the producers of the encyclopedia got onto your talent agent and they said, listen, we want to summarize the character Al in terms of Who's the Boss. We want Billy to summarize him in terms of that synopsis, the 2 lines. What would you like those 2 lines to read, Billy Gallo, in terms of describing Al?
That's a tough one. Al, they describe him as a hood with a hairbrush, but I think Al was so much more. Al was a dreamer. Al had a rock and roll band called Al and the Hot Rollers. Al opened up his own beauty salon called Mr. Al's, which was almost, they wanted to create my own series, which was a backdoor spinoff of Who's the Boss. And we did an episode called Beautician Heal Thyself. And it was all about me opening up my own beauty salon in Brooklyn. And that truly was, a spinoff. So, Al was truly a kid with, had big dreams, and, he made those dreams a reality, kind of like me. So, Al is a, he's a little misunderstood. He says stuff without thinking, but he's definitely a dreamer. He makes stuff happen. I mean, for a kid with, got in trouble stealing car radios, he did pretty well for himself, opening up his own beauty salon and having a rock and roll band and, all kinds of fun stuff Al did.
And I suppose, Billy Gallo, finally for you, have you ever been to Ireland, or if so, have you any sort of story to tell us? And if not, is it in the bucket list in the near future?
I would love to go to Ireland. I've never been. I would love to. I did ancestry.com and I found out I got a little Irish in me. So it's in my blood.
On that note, Billy Gallo, an absolute pleasure talking to you today in this latest episode of our Cult Classic TV series. Comedy was the genre this week. We went back to 1984 to 1992, all 8 seasons of Who's the Boss, and delighted to speak to Billy Gallo, who played the role of Al, and obviously who was the stand-in for Tony Danza, was on the set for a numerous of years of Who's the Boss, integral part of the show's success. Billy, thanks for taking the time to speak to us today, and we wish you all the best in front of the screen and behind the screen, and in terms of instilling that acting belief and talent into the next generation for years to come. Billy Gallo, an absolute pleasure. Take care.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Take care.
Thank you.
You're welcome.